Today is September 9th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are reading out of the Big Book today, I promise. Actually, we're doubling up. We are going to begin chapter 5, and we are going to read all the steps today. This is How It Works, pages 58, 59, and I think even part of page 60. And now the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through step 9 by reading the second half of page 84. And we'll be reading today's daily reflection in 24 hours a day. So with that, hope you all are doing well this morning, my friends. Once again, what a blessing. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours. That's always a good thing. And to wake up sober, it's exponentially better. But if you are not sober today, my friend, today is a brand new opportunity to begin your brand new life, which is infinitely better than being in the throes of alcoholism. And you don't have to do it alone. The very first word in the steps we're going to read today is we. So with that, let's get to the good stuff. In the last chapter of We Agnostics, it was really preparing the readers for what we're about to read by keeping that open mind and trying something new and always being willing to grow. So now we are at the steps. This is the heart of the entire program right here. So we're on chapter 5, How It Works, page 58. Rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we've set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if He were sought. Out of the 12 and 12 run, step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And in yesterday's reading, we were talking about how, when we first start working the program, and we're very, very early in it, to just be careful about how much we admit to others. It says right here, the last line, while we may be quite willing to reveal the very worst, we must be sure to remember that we cannot buy our own peace of mind at the expense of others. So with that, we'll finish off page 84. Much the same approach will apply at the office or factory. We shall at once think of a few people who know all about our drinking and have been most affected by it. But even in these cases, we may need to use a little more discretion than we did with the family. We may not want to say anything for several weeks or longer. First, we will wish to be reasonably certain that we are on the AA beam. Then we are ready to go to these people, to tell them what AA is and what we are trying to do. Against this background, we can freely admit the damage that we have done and make our apologies. We can pay or promise to pay whatever obligations, financial or otherwise, we owe. The generous response of most people to such quiet sincerity will often astonish us. Even our severest and most justified critics will frequently meet us more than halfway on the first trial. Daily Reflection, September 9th. Opening New Doors. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 84. The promises talked about in this passage are slowly coming to life for me. What has given me hope is putting step 9 into action. The step has allowed me to see and set goals for myself in recovery. Old habits and behaviors die hard. Working step 9 enables me to close the door on the drunk that I was and to open new avenues for myself as a sober alcoholic. Making direct amends is crucial for me. As I repair relationships and behavior of the past, I am better able to live a sober life. Although I have some years of sobriety, there are times when the old stuff from the past needs to be taken care of, and step 9 always works when I work it. 24 hours a day, September 9th. AA thought for the day. When alcoholics are offered a life of sobriety by following the AA program, they will look at the prospect of living without alcohol and they'll ask, am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum like some of the righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Have I found a more than sufficient substitute for drinking? Meditation for the day. In God's strength, you conquer life. Your conquering power is the grace of God. There can be no complete failure with God. Do you want to make the best of life? Then live as near as possible to God, the source and giver of all life. Your reward for deepening on God's strength will be sure. Sometimes the reward will be renewed power to face life. Sometimes wrong thinking overcome. Sometimes people brought to a new way of living. Whatever success will not be all on your own doing, but largely the working out of the grace of God. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may try to rely more fully on the grace of God. I pray that I may live a victorious life. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading. So it was a little extra today, so I'll try to make this as brief as I can, but golly, every reading was great, as always. But just going back to the steps real quick, the heart of the steps. I mean, what a beautiful way to kind of live life, to tackle every single problem. And I love the follow-up right after the steps, right? Many of us exclaimed, what an order, I can't go through with it. There's reassurance here. Don't be discouraged. No one among us, this is talking about the first 100 when this book was written, no one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. In other words, we're not perfect. The point is that we are willing to grow. So there's the willingness along spiritual lines to keep our minds open enough to consider spirituality here. The principles we've set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. It's progress over perfection. These 12 steps, these suggestions, these principles, whatever you want to call them, the Big Book calls them many different things. These are perfect ideals that we can strive for. We're not always going to get it right. There's lots of times throughout the day I'm like, ooh, I tripped over that one. Or I wasn't rigorously honest, or I don't know, I wasn't impeccable in my word, or I let somebody hurt me, or, I got offended, or so, whatever it might be. That's where I have to get on my knees and ask God for an intuitive thought or decision, or forgiveness, or whatever, and then I get right back on it and try it again. But by practicing these steps in my life, all 12 of them, I've become a better man. Not by my own merits, but by lots of practice with these spiritual principles. I heard one time from I was a Navy SEAL on a different podcast, but it really stood out to me. And I think he was asked the question, how do you do it? Do you rise to the occasion? And the SEAL said, no. We fall back on our training. And that's kind of what these steps are. They're training for me. I just kind of fall back on what I know. These steps. And when I do them, even if I don't do them perfectly, I'm developing a spiritual muscle. Or rather, God is making that spiritual muscle grow. The description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostics, they all lead right here to these steps. And if we have an open mind and the willingness to do this and the consistency to stick with it, I think it's impossible not to grow. So my friends, here's a great way. Here are some great spiritual tools laid out before us today, this set of 24 hours. I pray that we use them today to show our best for those we love the most. And with that, if we are given another set of 24 hours, my friends, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.